Hello and welcome to this week's Innovation Coffee brought to you by ARM. I'm your host, Robert Wolf, and today we have an amazing episode planned for you. Now, I don't think it's too far off in saying that the modern world revolves around data. From collecting and storing to transferring and analyzing, we have pretty much found a way to digitize everything around us in an effort to make sense of all of it, right? So, with devices at the edge and at the endpoint becoming increasingly more compute capable, it's almost inevitable to try going about your day to day without creating or consuming data in one form or another. Now, I have some interesting things that I've pulled off the web here. I collected these stats and some predictions. Now, keep in mind, this is from 2020. I got this from Seed Scientific, but if you look at data in the world, we estimated to have pretty much created about 44 zettabytes of data. Now, let me give you an idea of how much data this really is. So that's 1,000 to the 7 bytes of data, 44 sextillion bytes, 21 zeros. Okay, so the number's like this big. By 2025, the amount of data that is estimated to be created every day globally total is 463 exabytes. So I didn't even calculate how much that is, but it's a lot. By 2025, we also expect there to be 75 billion Internet of Things devices around the world. Another really cool thing here is by 2030, 9 out of 10 people above the age of 6 will be digitally active. Now, what is digitally active? It's just a fancy way of saying that they'll be online in some way. So they'll have some sort of online presence. So how is all of this data collected and managed? More importantly, how is all of your data and this data in general kept safe? Well, luckily, we're joined today by two amazing guests who should be able to shine some light on this matter and share some interesting solutions we have not yet discussed on this stream before. Now, joining us from Bellevue, Washington, we have Sasan Montasseri, founder and president of Itia, and Ryan Phillips, who is a software architect at Itia. Together, they will talk to us about the company. We're going to learn about Itia, which I'm excited about, give us some insight on their offerings, and ultimately, we'll go over a couple demos. So that's pretty exciting. If you enjoy the stream, don't forget, please like this video and subscribe to the ARM Software Developers YouTube channel. So without further ado, let's bring Sasan and Ryan in here. So hello, Sasan. Hello, Ryan. Welcome to Innovation Coffee. True to form, what we usually do at the beginning of these episodes, we want to get to know both of you first, right? And then we'll talk about the company. But first of all, Sasan, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself, what you do for Itia, and maybe a fun anecdote about yourself?
Hello, and thank you very much for having us. And yes, I will be happy to do that. My name is Sasan Montasseri, as you mentioned, and I started Itia about year 2000. And a couple of interesting things with regards to the naming that may come interesting for your audience. At that time, we were looking for names, and there were companies that they were successful, like Microsoft, and everybody tried to come up with a name that had soft at the end. And to your surprise, I was just like, trying to rely on something that's important for me. During the stage of my life, I happened to learn about two things. I happened to learn that, mind are really important, and also time, it's another important assets that, we have. So at that time, I was looking for a name that can relate to mind. And so based on that, I, looked around, and finally I arrived to a statement from the famous philosopher Descartes that says, I think, therefore I am. So I thought that that's a fantastic thing to remind myself that, thinking is important, and, and innovation is important. So based on that, the name Itia, ITTIA, started. A little bit about myself. I have an electrical engineering background, and by training, I went to University of Kansas. So I am a big Jayhawk basketball fan, and when I have my extra time is spent on following Jayhawks. And when it comes to football, I follow Seahawks. And when it comes to NBA, I'm always, cheering for underdogs. And this happened to be, at this season for me is Milwaukee Bucks.
That's interesting. Actually, you say you have an electrical engineering background. I actually have an electrical engineering background as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I enjoy a lot of the technical stuff. Unfortunately, though, I find myself not able to tinker as much as I'd like to, or as much as I used to. But yeah, so I mean, definitely cool to know that you have that technical background. Of course, you know, being the president of a technical company, I think that's important. So very cool. And sports, I'm not that much into sports, but I'm trying to be. So very cool. Thank you, Sasan, for your introduction. Ryan, you're up. So Ryan, what do you do? How you doing today? Welcome.
Good. It's a nice overcast day in Seattle. I'm a Seattle native and I graduated the UW. I've been working at the company for 15 years. I started in technical support and I've just had the opportunity to talk to a lot of different customers and really get into the kind of problems that other software developers are facing, particularly on embedded devices. And that's given me the opportunity to really understand people's requirements, and that's brought me more into the product design and building the architecture of our newest database offerings.
So thank you very much, Ryan, for that introduction as well. I think it's time now. We want to learn about Itia, right? So you kind of touched a little bit about the naming, why you named it Itia, but I'm interested to hear more about what the company does. And I know people can go to the website, right? So you can go to the Itia website. We're going to post it right here below. But tell us something, you know, maybe that's not on the website, or summarize it for us here on the show so people watching can know what Itia is and what you guys do.
Yeah, basically, I started the company in year 2000, and I had a database background. I've been in Serena for almost 25 years now, and I was witnessing that the manufacturing of the embedded systems or devices at the time, they were mainly looking for a high performance database that is not too complex and it doesn't have too much of a learning curve. And basically, something that when they hire people that they are familiar with database from previous experience, they can, become active right away without spending months and months and learning about this. So the long learning curve and the maintenance headache, particularly also the integration with other systems and other tools, that kind of made me to think that okay, there is a place that we may be able to add value, and we decided to assemble the Itia team. And ever since, our focus has been on the data management. The product, we didn't plan to have a product of our own. We were just going out there to try to come up with something that can be applicable for others and build on that. But through our investigation, we learned that most majority of the products that they were available for the market, they were built for specific customers, and then they brought it back and they marketed to others. And that's not how I wanted to offer the solution. I thought, okay, what we will do here is we will go and we do study the market, we will talk to the customers, and that's why we did several years of consulting, and we work with various manufacturers. And the product was born in 2007, actually. And ever since, our focus been on the embedded systems and intelligent devices. And we have worked with customers in a variety of vertical markets. And the technology has grown from its inception by working with having the opportunity to work with prestige multinational customer throughout North America. And now we are at the stage that the name of the game has changed as everything is evolving. For us, what we are seeing is machine to machine, artificial intelligence, and these are the type of capabilities for which that developers and manufacturers are looking for solution. And in order to be in that arena, it's very important to have certain characteristics because performance is really important, memory constraint is really important. So as a result of all those things, the technology offering at this stage is focused for that kind of market and that kind of arena.
Excellent. I think that you summarized it perfectly there. I was reading through your abstract and reading through the website. I think that was a perfect summary. And so I think it's time now to talk about this era of IoT that we're in, right? And what is Itia doing for this era of IoT? So I have a question for you. Let's start this off, and then we're going to get Ryan into the loop here. But we're collecting data all over the place, right? We have this stream of timestamp data, and we need to really understand, how does this work, and what is Itia doing to make this work when collecting all of this data?
Yeah, that's a good question. So basically, I'll try to share my basic knowledge that I have in this area. Right now, what we is important, and what's our focus is, there are many things that are important, but we have a focus, and our focus relate to time series data management. So basically, what we provide a database management or data management platform that it's able to get silently into a device, and as a result, it's going to empower it so it can process the data. And remember that, in this era that, we are dealing with Internet of Things, tremendous amount of load of data, it's coming in. And you don't want to collect all of it. You want to make sure that, what is important, it's collected, and based on that is acted on. For example, when you have an autonomous vehicle, you want to just act and turn when there's an exit sign. And when you have an industrial automation or you have robots that they are doing all this work for you, you want to just do the preventive maintenance and have them to let you know that the temperature, for example, got about 70. That means danger. So this is a type of situation that we relate as a time series. And with time series data, time, as the name explains, is the main citizens of everything that it's witnessed by the device. And the manufacturer that they're building, systems that are generally related to our area, they have lots of sensors, and these sensors are deployed with the embedded systems, and they want to be able to have a unique focus on data management so they can monitor the data, they can constantly monitor the data, and they want to be able to collect and react when there is a need for it. So a series of data collection for a single entity comes to the picture. And let me give you an example. For example, you're tracking a stock which is changing in a millisecond. And for example, you have a Microsoft MSFT stock, and you want to have information about a daily closing for MSFT for a period of 1 year, and that's very important for you. Or you have a robot that doing drilling for you, and you want to watch the performance, and you want to say, okay, give me the millisecond data for 124 hours. So this is the type of thing. Or you have a tracking personal health like ECG that people are using. So the time series data is a compilation of observation that is obtained through a frequent measurement over a certain time interval. So basically, you draw your x-axis and y-axis. One of the axes is definitely time, and based on that, we are coming up with we have introduced and built our technology such that it can offer a solution for such a thing. For example, another temperature is you want to get the maximum temperature, maximum pressure, and maximum density for all the robots that you have deployed in your factories in Seattle, Tokyo, Munich on July 8, 2021. So this is how the timestamp work. And then also, in addition to that, we have the processing power that is continuously monitoring the generated data from thousands of data points that are coming to the device, and data is, with our technology, it's a database processed first, and for your various means that you may want to do aggregation, you may want to do filtering, you might do correlation, whatever that relates to your business, database does that for you because it's embedded silently inside your application. Nobody knows that you're using a powerful database in there, and after monitoring and processing of large volume of data, the device is able to capture the value information for you, and if there is any abnormality, act for you, and be able to make the decision. So for example, if a company continuously analyzes the robot that monitors the operation of the robot, our database empower the system to be able to make autonomous decision and act.
You touched on some very important things there, and I've talked about this on the stream before. I'm going to say it one more time here. Not too long ago, most of the data was actually moving from the server outwards, right? And I've said this for anyone here that's already heard me say this before. You have like things like YouTube and Netflix. These were some of the first huge entities that were pushing out all this data, right? It was stored somewhere, pushed out. Now we talk about this compute power at the edge, the endpoint. All this data is now being collected and created at the edge and moved inwards, right? And so this brings in so many new use cases, applications, and it sounds like Itia is positioned to kind of help with these applications, these things at the endpoint. Now, I want to bring Ryan in here because we're going to talk about at the edge. So at the edge, there are a lot of vulnerabilities. So you have devices that are now accessible physically. There's more attack surface. So you have more devices at the edge. You're not just kind of isolated to a single server rack or just a small select set of chipsets or hardware. You have a variety of devices. So let's talk about these edge devices. Let's first tackle kind of some of the physical things that could happen. What happens when a device is out there and you lose connectivity, or the power fails, and you need this data? You're talking about timestamp data. You want a 24 period. What if the power goes out for an hour in there, right? So let's talk some about some of these constraints.
Yeah, it's really about what you can do with the data, where it's produced on the devices themselves. And so you need to have the ability to continue collecting data. If a device gets disconnected, there's still valuable information that it's receiving, and you want to, maybe the device has a small screen on it that allows you to look at the data directly. We have a lot of devices that just get deployed to remote locations, and you need that ability to query and access the data from the device itself. But you can also connect the devices to gateways that will collect information from other devices in their vicinity, and in that way kind of mitigate the problems that you would get if individual devices lose power. You're still collecting that data both on the individual devices and onto a kind of gateway device. So it's really important, though, that because these devices are often battery powered, when there is a failure, you're able to bring them back up and not have any of the data that was successfully collected be corrupted or lost. And furthermore, you need to be able to bring them back up quickly and resume where they were left off. So you can't spend a whole lot of time repairing things like you might be able to do on a server where you have people dedicated to bringing a server back up when it fails.
So that's great. I'm very interested in hearing about now. So perfect, right? Batteries. The power goes out. Hopefully you have some coin cell. These are in devices. They're not consuming too much power. If you're running on ARM, less. And so you have some fail safes there. Now let's talk a little bit about the security, because I've brought this up with some other people I've talked about edge with. Standardizing security across these platforms. What devices is ITIA focused on? What happens if there's a breach, or what happens if that layer is compromised? And then on top of that, are you working with your customers to figure out ways to secure devices physically, so someone can't just go physically tamper with those devices and compromise the data? What kind of stuff are you guys doing for that?
Well, that's the very good question. With regards to security with the Internet of Things, quantity of valuable data, and that needs to be really stored securely. It needs to be distributed securely, and it needs to be managed securely. So based on that, the first thing that we did, we have a patent pending technology which is called DB-Seal. DB-Seal is a virtual agent, and it's isolate database that's stored on the devices, and is chooses between alternative to pretty much monitor the attack. And it's a training that this training agent can get embedded inside the database, and as a result it becomes familiar with the data management behavior. So the goal here is to make sure that when there is uncertain behavior and there are situations that it's out of the training platform, the DB-Seal agent jumps in and provides different alternative. It can block the access, it can shut down the system, it can do whatever the manufacturer decide for it. So that's one thing that we have. In addition to that, we offer secure file storage, remote access for the remote access, and and then the data distribution. So whether a database file is accessed locally or shared over a public network, we have encryption support that protects unauthorized, protects the database from unauthorized access or eavesdropping and session hijacking.
Awesome, awesome. So yeah, I want to talk a little bit about. Let's bring everyone back in here. I want to talk a little bit about this. Sorry, I want to talk a little bit about the devices that you're using here. Okay, so traditionally, I don't have I usually have like this famous board of boards. Okay, so all these different developer devices that people are doing. I can imagine that you have customers show up to you and say, I want to develop a product, or I want to develop something and I want to use this device. How does Itia go about? Like, do you have a list of devices that are already enabled that just function and work out of the box? Do you go and do you enable these like specifically for your customer? How does this work? Like, what would be the process for someone to get Itia up and running on these developer devices or on these devices that go into the products at the use case, at the endpoint?
Yeah, we have a number of different off-the-shelf development boards that we have support for. So if someone comes to us on a certain vendor, we typically say, okay, these are the development boards that we can give you an evaluation on, and we provide them something to showcase our technology there. But as you say, they usually have a very specific, even custom board that they're targeting, and so we try to get that hardware in-house so that we can make sure that our product really works well on their particular environment.
Yeah, in addition to what Ryan explained, actually this is one of our value that we bring to the market. When manufacturers want to build systems, they don't want to train themselves with the database. They don't want to be able to provide their of the updates and upgrades. And this is a pretty heavy tax. As I said, I've been in the industry for 25 years, and every single day I learn about this thing, and I'm asking myself how some of these people want to build their own solution. So the value that we bring here, as you mentioned here, is that we have worked with variety of devices. We have expertise, we have internal expertise. We have partnership with NXP, we have partnership with ST Microelectronics, we have partnership with Torodex, we have partnership with Phytech, we have partnership with TQ Systems. So everybody that it's in this arena, we have worked with them to the customers, and we know where to go and we know how to solve. It's all about time. You want to be able to go to the market fast. You want to be able to pass the database headache to somebody else, and you want to focus on your main business. And that's what Itia is aiming to be your support in that area.
It reminds me of, I'm not going to get this quote right, and I don't remember who said it, but it really reminds me of the statement that someone said one time. You're not paying me to get this done in a month because it took me a month. You're paying me to get this done in a month because I have 20 years of experience that allows me to get it done in a month. If you did it on your own, it might take you 2 years, but we have 20 years of experience. That's why we can do it so much quicker. And so I think that that's a very important thing to take into account when, dealing with these types of things. And, working in the developer ecosystem, the developer community, you kind of come across this stuff all the time. You might be very good at one thing, but you still need help from other people to get the hardware built, to test out the chips. What if you never worked in a supply chain before? Like if you're not familiar with the supply chain, devices that go end of life, there's all sorts of different issues, and not every one person can know everything. So it's definitely worth it to lean on the professionals in this industry.
You really mentioned, if I can add something very, very important,
yeah.
Something very, very important. Through the years that I work with, we work with customers. So our customer success is the fundamental part of our ethics, and it's really disappointing when they cannot make it. Unfortunately, we have seen customers that they try to come to the market, they ran out of the money for the development, they ran out of time. These are all real things that's available. So when you want to detour these things, you want to go to an expert and say, okay, the data management is your responsibility. I'm going to focus on my stuff, and then what does it take to do that? And we really believe in honesty in our business relationship. We respect our customer trust and aim toward building a long-lasting relationship with them. And that's how we are proud of. This is our marketing. This is how we are trying to get referral, and we get referred to other customers. So what you mentioned is really important. Being able to go to the operating system, go through the hardware vendor, and making sure that they're all together. Integration, it's really, really, really important.
And that's the 20 plus years of experience that you all have building out that network and understanding how it flows and works. So that's very cool. So yeah, thank you. Now I want to talk about these devices just a little bit more before we move into the next topic here, because you offer a bunch of products and we're going to talk about these products. Now, the customer gets these devices and, it's inevitable. Something might happen at some point, something goes down, or maybe you just want to evolve your system. What does ITIA offer to diagnose and debug these systems that you push out to your customers?
Yeah, so our software is primarily targeting software developers. So we provide both uh, off-the-shelf applications that allow you to send your queries to the device, but also C and C++ APIs that you can build into your application. So we have a lot of diagnostic tools that, well, if you just think about it, the data that's being stored on these devices is going to be collected over a long period of time, and it may last through many firmware updates. And so it's important to have tools so that you can remotely connect into the device and inspect, okay, this device has data, it's got this schema, and I can just do some on the fly queries to find out what information has been captured here. That can be really useful when trying to investigate issues that an application is experiencing, as well as just during the development process.
Is there a support team at ITIA that, where you can tap into a device remotely and troubleshoot with your customer?
Um, we give the developers a lot of freedom to embed our technology into their application. So they really get to pick and choose what functionality is included. So it's not necessarily possible for us to remote in, but they can certainly provide gateways for that and include those
Yeah,
hooks
that makes sense.
if they choose to.
Very nice. Very nice. So now this last thing, we've talked about the customers, we've talked about, use cases. I want to explore, if possible, maybe you could share some of the applications or things that people have built here. So, on your website, you talk about ITIA applications being in medical devices, industrial automation, portable data terminals, customer electronics, networking appliances, automotive systems. Could you give us some examples of where we might have hiddenly seen ITIA at work?
Yeah, I will be happy to do that. Generally, the value that we bring to the table relates to when there is no connectivity available and the system is completely isolated, and you expect the data management 100% happen on its own. For example, medical devices that you mentioned. Let's say you are building a medical device that does the diagnostics or does dialysis for people who have kidney problem. So when you have such a system, you want to be able to put this device in a way that when a physician gets into the room, they can just basically explain to the device during what period what dosage of medicine needs to be injected, and during what time the system needs to stop injecting the medicine, and everything that relates to the availability of the data. So one place here is for the database to be able to go to the availability of the medicine that's available, communicate that with the physician, and per the system requirement, provide that. Also, during the operation, which is pretty important, you want to be able to collect configuration information and also system log information, how the system behaves, so later on you can monitor it and you can analyze it. So this is one particular case that our database has been utilized, and we're adding value in that area. With the industrial automation, for example, let's say you're building these solar inverters that you're putting them in the middle of nowhere, and you send a technician there once or twice a year, and you want to be able to collect all the information. You want to look at the system and say, okay, from December 3 2020 until January 5th 2021, how much electricity was it produced? You want to look at the graph. You want to be able to get the system configuration data. You want to be able to get the system login data. So that's an industrial automation systems. If you're building, automotive systems, particularly with autonomous and all those things, you want to be able to, have the data already available so system can rely on, system can think about, basically think about it as the, as I always tell our customers that, the database is acting like a data. For those of us who read more, it's more knowledgeable and it's more powerful. And for the devices that they can keep more data, they're more knowledgeable and they're more powerful. So these are some of the examples that, I can share with you with regards to various markets.
Very nice. Very nice. And thank you. Yeah. So I think it's time to transition into ITIA products. Now, I, again, have explored your website and I noticed at least 3 products on the site. One is DBSQL or ITIA DBSQL. You have the ITIA DB IoT, and then you have the ITIA DB console. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about these 3 different products and how might a developer get access to them to, troubleshoot or start working with them themselves?
Yeah, that's a great question. With regards to our technologies, the area that we are, basically the arena of IoT devices, is divided to 2 different perspective for us. We look at it as the devices that they come with MCUs, and we look at it as the devices that come with MPUs. Basically, MCUs, they have low, memory. They have memory constraint and they have low power. And you have like 80 megahertz that you have to run the system on, and you have like 50 or 100 kilobyte that you can allocate to database. So that is something that it's related to our database, that our database technology referred as ETIA DB IoT. So for that, for ETIA DB IoT, our focus, it's like like our other technology. We basically provide really fast data management technology that offers data processing as well as data management. Remember that you want to get lots of data, you want to be able to analyze it, and you want to be able to store the valuable information for historical purposes, so you can go back and run query against them. So our ETIA DB IoT is mainly allows you to silently embed a powerful database inside to your little device and be able to save bandwidth, experience great throughput and latency. So when the flood of edge data collects at the micro MCUs, ETIA DB IoT is in the picture. And then ETIA DB console, it's not our 3rd product. ETIA DB console, it's availability for both products. It's a dash, it's a cockpit that it's really cool technology. We're really excited about that because, we claim that we are helping developer to save time. We are claiming that, we are going to help businesses to save, financial resources that they want to put on their application. How do we do that? DB console is an example on that. DB console is a very powerful tool that allows the developer to examine everything that they have in their mind before they really do any coding. So this tool, it's designed to help application developer to obtain web access to multiple database devices, run and display data metrics, and it's an attractive cockpit that allows them to examine what they have. So this is ETIA DB IoT. ETIA DB SQL is for MPUs, microprocessors that they have more rooms. And with ETIA DB SQL, we provide the full-blown SQL that is very well known for for developers, and so they can run our product on a variety of operating system that they have more targeted, such as QNX, such as VxWorks, such as Linux, and such as any RTOS operating systems. Whereas with MCUs, we mainly focus on product like FreeRTOS and etc. So DB console is available for both of them, and ETIA DB IoT, it's for MCUs, and ETIA DB IoT is for MCUs, and ETIA DB SQL, it's for MPUs.
Nice. I think you summarized it very well there. But again, I'm going to post this right here. You can, of course, go to the ITIA website, and we've been popping it up here and there to go check those out. The last question here, because I did notice you had I think it was like a developer or an evaluation download. How might developers get to play with these different products if they wanted to?
Yeah, definitely. We are very open to providing the evaluation. They can visit our website, ITTIA, and click on evaluation. And then we definitely get back with them and we provide them with access to our software. We do the required handholding. And our goal here is to make sure that, they jump ahead, rather than spending, 6 months to a year. We want to make sure that everything gets provided for them in few days that they spend with us. And that's our goal, really. So go to VTO website, www.ittia.com, provide your information, and we'll be happy to provide you with access to our software and share with you what we have been providing for the embedded market for the past few years.
That is awesome. So there you go. You heard it. ITTIA. Go check it out.com. And yeah, you can apply for that. So I think it's time to move into a demo. So, you can go apply for it now, but maybe you want to see the demo first. So we have two cool demos or two videos queued up here. I'm going to follow your lead. I have the videos ready. So is that Ryan that's going to do them or you, Sasan?
Ryan will do that.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you're ready, I can pop those videos on, and what might happen is your microphone might mute. If you want to talk over the video, just keep an eye on your microphone so you can unmute yourself and talk over it.
Okay. Yeah, so just a preamble, we've recorded some videos showing the ITIA DB console running on a Cortex-A IMX8 device, and then we'll show what you can do with C language code on a Cortex-M device using the same kind of technology.
Okay, so we're ready. I'm going to hit the video then. Okay, so we have video number 1 here, and you can go ahead and talk over this and tell us what's happening while we watch it. So here we go. Cue and action.
Okay, so basically what we're showing here is that you can have a device that has a number of different sensors connected to it, and you want to be able to do interesting things with that data. So for example, if we have raw accelerometer X, Y, and Z data coming in, we can ask the database to calculate for us what is the magnitude of that acceleration, so we can figure out how quickly this device is being moved around. And so this all starts with having a variety of different data sources connected to the device. We could have that data coming in at a very high data rate and have the device keep up with that and continuously process the information coming in. But for this demonstration, we'll be sticking to data sources that just bring data in 1 sample per second so that it's a bit easier to follow along. So you can have combination devices that have accelerometer and magnetometer bringing data in, or just pure accelerometer data. This information can be used for a variety of different things. I'm going to focus on queries that relate to temperature and pressure. This is a pretty common kind of sensor that's used in weather stations, in automotive applications, just checking engine temperature and such. And so there's some interesting kinds of queries around that we can look at. So the idea is that we want to be able to send queries to the device so that it can figure out the answer to those questions on the device itself as the data is arriving, and the application, whether that's another piece of software on the device invoking these queries, or if it's a remote connection like I've done here in my web browser, you can really submit a variety of different queries. And so like the ideal gas law allows us to measure the volume of a gas from its temperature and pressure. And so you can submit queries like that to the database in order to have the device continuously compute the answer for your application. We can also do queries where, let's say we're interested in all of the data over the last 4 seconds for a certain sensor. And so we can express a query when we're doing our development or when we're doing diagnostics that will answer that question running directly on the device. We can also do aggregate queries. So now that we've narrowed it to the data over the last 4 seconds, we can build a running average over that. And so by layering the different clauses of the SQL language together, you can continuously get an answer that's updated as this time series data arrives from the sensors. So another thing that we want to do is be able to identify specific events that occur. So we don't necessarily want to always be getting an immediate answer. Sometimes we have applications where we want to wait until a specific event that we're looking for occurs. So you can give the database a query to say, let me know whenever the temperature from this device exceeds 30 degrees Celsius. And here we've had a brief moment where the data from the sensor matched that criteria. And then we have a lull where that data is no longer matching that temperature. We've also put a 1-minute window on here. So we're not going to be looking at data that is too old, but anytime that the this sensor is just working on a cycle. So every time it cycles around, we get only the data that satisfies that criteria. So these are just a few examples of the kinds of queries that you might be interested in doing, and there's a lot of flexibility with what you can submit. So it's also important to be able to control what information gets captured and permanently stored on the device. And so you can take any of these queries, insert it into a time series table, and that will ensure that the data is stored permanently on the flash media on whichever device you've sent this query to. So this gives you a lot of control over exactly what information gets stored. And here we see the schema for that time series table and some of the data that's been collected up to now. So this had been running for a while and had collected quite a few values. And then, of course, you can also do queries on the data that's been stored permanently on the device. So we could just get all of the data that was captured for one particular time series, or we can do more sophisticated aggregation queries where we can say, look at all of the different devices that we've collected data over and do a query that says, okay, in the last day, how much time have we recorded for these high temperature events, so that we could see maybe if there's certain devices that have had these high temperature events for a long time, maybe they need additional maintenance. So it's just an example of one of the types of queries that you might want to do. And anytime that you execute that query, it's going to be updated with the new information that's been arriving from the sensors in the background. So that's an overview of some of the things that you can do when ETA DB-SQL is deployed onto a device. You can connect to it from your web browser and use this console interface to perform all of these different queries that are running continuously on the device.
It's very interesting because, I think one of the big important things when you're talking about these in devices, and thank you, by the way, for this demo, we have one more coming, but, when you're talking about these in devices, trying to conserve power, trying to make sure that they last as long as possible out in the field, the whole trigger aspect, right? Listen mode, listen for some threshold, listen for some activity. And then when that happens, then boom, trigger collection data, trigger some form of transferring that data or logging it or storing it. So, it's good to see that, you have all of this built into that dashboard and able to collect all of this very simply, it looks like. Sasan, did you want to add anything before we move on to the next demo?
No, basically, as you noticed, what we try to demonstrate here is that when a database it's hidden inside your application and inside your device, you are able to train the management of data, how the device should process the data, how should what should be kept, what should be thrown out, how time series plays a role here. It's very, very important, and paying attention to different timestamp that you explain to your device. And as you noticed, what we did, we provided this facility that you can have different options, such as getting into the device with your web access and monitor the system. So basically, with this demo, we emphasize on the fact that you can process large volume of data, you can monitor it, and you can store it, and you can keep the reliable information for your future analysis.
Very nice. Yeah. And Ryan, you went over quite a few examples of types of data. So that was really cool. Are you ready for the next one?
Please.
Excellent. All right. In Q and action.
Yeah, so once we've collected that data, it's important to be able to retrieve that information efficiently, even on some of these microcontrollers that have very limited memory. This demonstration is running on an 80 megahertz Cortex-M board with just a few hundred kilobytes of RAM, and we have stored a bunch of data onto a time series on this device. And our main focus has always been to make good, solid C++ APIs for developers to be able to query that information. And with time series, it's all about finding data over certain time ranges, whether that is looking up data for a single individual time series and getting that data back in timestamp order, or if it is doing a query that joins a number of different sensor data sources together by timestamp. So you can see, okay, at this time, what are all of the different values that we have collected? We have a way of doing those join queries really both efficiently, low footprint, and with very simple code on the device. So here we have a example that pulls out the most recent data and converts that into a CSV format so that you can export that in a text format. But the same API works just as well if you're exporting to XML, JSON, or a custom binary protocol to get the data out. So we just wanted to show that it's not just these fancy GUIs. This is really for developers to be able to store and manipulate the data from their applications.
Very nice. Yeah, I like that. So I think the big question here, after seeing these demos, after talking about ITIA and all the cool things that you all are working on, is if you aren't convinced yet, okay, if you're a developer out there, you're building something, you're working with databases, all this data, and you aren't convinced yet, Sasan, this one's for you. Why should I use ITIA on the device? And, when there's all these other possibilities and all these other things out there working on the cloud, why should I, if I'm not convinced yet, why should I use ITIA?
Well, basically, there are two fundamentals with our business model. One is that to make sure that you tremendously, not just saving, you're tremendously saving development time. So our software is designed with the simplicity in mind. So it's very important for you to keep the development in process and make sure that when you pass it to other developers after you, they don't have to go through months of learning curve and dealing with this sophistication that sometimes really can halt the whole system. So the first important thing is that we focus quite a bit on simplicity. We focus on the fact that you benefit from all the database. A database is not the new stuff. I mean, database started many decades ago, but we try to benefit from all the billions years of development that went through database software development and bring that to the table. So you don't have access to ETL database. You have access to the tremendous amount of evolution and innovation that happened in database data management arena. So it's all available to you in a compact package. So that's one reason that people select us, because they feel at home. They kind of know the database. It's not something that is, they have to spend tremendous amount of learn to interact with. Also, the other factor that is important for you, it's the cost for these embedded systems are really, sometimes you have to be very, very cost sensitive. So what we do, we try to work with customers, and we develop a pricing model that makes it really reasonable for both sides. Because our best news is when customer wins and customer goes out there and it's really successful. It's like you having a child, and your child, accomplishes at university, at the sport arena, and anything else. So that is how important for us. Whatever we can do, we want to do that the customer is successful because of our own self, because we become very happy. We are very self interested in that success. And that's why, we are not your customer. We are not just only your database provider. We are your partner. And that's how you want to look at us.
I sometimes because thank you so much, Sasan. I mean, I think that was perfect. That was the perfect pitch right there. Right now, everyone that you're watching, I'm kind of scrambling a little bit. The person who works, the wizard behind the scenes, has left us, so I'm in control of all of the little subtleties that are happening on the stream. But very cool, Sasan. Thank you so much for sharing that. All the developers out there watching, whether you're watching it live now or watching this later on demand, definitely worth it. Go check out itia.com. I'm going to put the site up here once again. So we're at the point here where we want to kind of put out some closing statements. So, I don't know, maybe you have a personal Twitter you want to share, something personal about yourself, something personal about a place you want to forward people. And of course, we can stay on the theme. Itia, tell us what your closing statement is, or your shameless plug to our developers and the people watching now and or later.
Well, first of all, we want to thank everybody for offering their time and listening to us. I hope you find that valuable. And basically, the main goal here is to make sure that we all contribute to our society. We all contribute for our next generation. I mean, I myself personally look at this as a personal goal. Every day I walk, every day I do shopping, and I say, before me, how much innovation, how much hard work, how much dedication was in there for me to have a comfortable life. And that's my personal goal, seriously. And I want to make sure that, whatever I do, it's become available for others. So we want to make sure that, when you work with us, you have access to everything that, as Robert fantastically mentioned, for the past 20 years. We want you to rapidly understand what we have learned, where we failed, where other customer failed. So we want to prevent that for you. And our goal here is to make sure that we add all these values to you in a fashion that you can benefit from it, you can be successful with it, and you can compete with it.
Very well said. Thank you so much. And yes, I mean, thank you to the viewers out there. Ryan, did you want to add anything real quick? I this quote, when you just said this, all the work that's been put in, sorry, but it reminds me of the Isaac Newton quote, right? And I've said this before, but standing on the shoulders of giants, like if I have seen further, it's by standing on the shoulders of giants. So I love it when that's my signature on my personal email address. So when people kind of make mention of that, it makes me think of it. Cool. Ryan, so you're up. Do you have anything you want to add to the last bits here before we close out?
Yeah, just I'm really excited to see more projects that people are working on with these embedded devices. We're really working on tools and general solutions. So we rely on our customers to bring us the actual applications and products that they're building with these devices. And it's always really cool to see what people are doing.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Just something very basic to mention in addition to what Ryan said. We have managed to grow the company organically. And, I tell my friends that, if you open up my soul, you can see how much browsers we have. Fortunately, we haven't been able to go outside, and it's basically no venture capital. Our customers are important for us. The customers help us to go to the next level. So that's why we are here for you, Mr. Customer, because you are the one who will allow us to talk about future.
Excellent. Excellent. Well said, both of you. And I'd like to add here, just to make sure we close this out properly. everyone watching, just go check out itia.com. If you weren't convinced, go check it out. Also, I want to make sure that you know this too. Itia has a LinkedIn area there, a company profile. So go to linkedin.com/company/Itia, follow them, like their stuff. And, if you're a database person, you might find a use case at some point where you'll need to give them a call. Besides that, I want to thank both of you for your time. Really appreciate you showing up here. I know it's valuable time. Everyone watching, of course, we're very grateful. And we do this every week. So every Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific time. That changes, but we are always standardized to the UTC time. So 5 p.m. UTC, that's unchanging. Whether your local time zone changes, you can always tune in at 5 p.m. UTC. So once again, we're going to close this out now. Thank you so much for the stream. Thank you so much for joining us. And I hope to see you again sometime soon. If Itia comes up with any cool new stuff, feel free to ping us and we'll get you back on the show. So thank you. All right. Take care.